And there we go. Hello and welcome to Lorelines, everybody. Episode 51 today, The Final Frontier Part 2. Fowlin Hawk here. Last week we had two wonderful guests, and that was a amazing diversion, and I'm so glad we had it, but now we're back at it. So, if I recall, we left off just having reached Ultima Thule, leaving the Ragnarok. And with that, I will welcome everyone to the podcast, and thank you for being here for yet another week. Hello, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good day, mate. We're not talking about time travel, are we?
All right, now
No.
we've covered the Truman Show greeting now.
I mean, I currently live in time travel. I'm like 6 hours ahead of you.
That's right.
How is
So
the
I-
Myth lives in the future.
Time is a myth.
No, time is an
That's in the
illusion.
U.S. where
Lunchtime,
daylight
doubly
savings time.
so. Heh.
I'm
Somebody
a
said-
traveler. I'm a traveler from the future.
That's right.
Time is time. You said time is an illusion. Lunchtime, doubly so.
That's a reference to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Such a good book. I've only read it about
Meow.
3 times.
Every time
So
you
what?
say that's right, I need to go Meowth. That's right.
Hey.
Do it.
You know, the worst part is that back in Tumblr, I still have my old profile picture, and it's literally Meowth crossing his arms with a judgmental look, and the text says, "Meowth, that's wrong."
You still haven't
Amazing.
said Meowth. That's right. We're waiting.
Because it's wrong.
I mean, yeah. I'm not. I can't do Team Rocket impressions in English because I've grown with Pokemon in Spanish. Sorry.
Oh no. That would make it a little confusing.
Yeah. Voice actors, different. Anyways. Anyway. Yeah,
So I was just
that.
I was just checking in with Arden, and for some reason I couldn't resist saying like the horse is awaiting an Arden, as if we're about to shuffle off on a right. But it just reminded me of. I'm so sorry. Nobody's a Destiny person here, but there's. Are you aware of the horse?
I
You're
am
not.
vaguely aware of the horse.
Okay, so there's a star horse that comes during celebrations, and right now they're having a 30th anniversary event, and it's supposed to be like this otherworldly being, like dimensionally above whatever we're experiencing here. But they use the word inconceivable horse during the voice acting. Like they just keep hammering down on this horse. Like it just becomes this repetition, and through repetition becomes hilarious. So I just about died off comms a second ago. Freaking space
So
horse.
basically, cringe of sorts.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. But it also the two NPCs will converse during the event, and the horse just sounds like a horse. It's just neighing.
Yeah, well.
So yeah, space is weird.
Of course.
A horse is a horse.
So I guess we shouldn't have dead comms for too long. How did we want to start off? How long did we want to?
Wow.
That killed me. That took me out.
Let's see. So we've had our fill of carrot travel.
Yes, I'm done with carrot travel.
And-
No, that's old and busted. The new hotness is it exists in two places at once.
And Twitter has tried to suffocate us.
Yes.
And
What happened on Twitter? What did I miss?
That's Medion.
Oh,
jeez.
Medion is Twitter.
Jesus.
Yes, that's very true.
It's a blue bird app that causes despair.
Exactly. You need to be able to take breaks from Medion.
Also, it cancels you.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
she doom scrolled too much.
too much doom scrolling.
She
Thank
was
God.
indeed
Enough.
trying to cancel Atheris.
Yeah, Banquet had enough, and He became
Thancred was cancelled, and
So we start this off by gesturing at the entirety of Ultima Thule and saying, "This is Thancred."
Yeah,
yes.
it is Thancred.
It's literally Thancred, a meme become incarnate.
Literally incarnate.
I just remember like getting off the ship, and I was like, "This place is really weird." And those green like energy vent things remind me of the Dragon Star. That would be cool if this is the Dragon Star. And then we saw the dragons, and I was like, "It's the Dragon Star!" But it wasn't. So it was Thancred.
It was Thancred the whole time. It is I, Thancred. Hey,
I've
Arden's
been in here 10 seconds and I already want to kill people.
I mean, that's what we love.
That's how you know it's a good week.
Yeah.
How are you, Arden?
Could be better. I have some remnants of my migraine.
No, so
I drowned mine out with ibuprofen and vodka.
Jesus.
Goodness. So yeah, I don't are we hearing everybody? Ayumi, are you here? No.
I am here.
Oh, there.
Yes, I am here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so where did we stop last week?
We got off a spaceship.
Just got off from the.
We just got off from the spaceship.
And we stepped onto Thancred.
Fair
you
enough.
know, maybe he's into it.
As far as set pieces go, I was really pleased with the way the ship had landed properly, but I was extremely confused in context of what happened on the ship. I mean, so
Can we talk about the space music that went on as we're going through this zone? This lo-fi spaceship music.
Yeah.
Space music, because I need that on a loop for like 6 hours all day.
Apparently, if you want to just experience that, if you use New Game Plus for the final chapter, it just re-lo-fies the whole zone.
Yep, it does.
I gotta do that.
Yeah, I yeeted myself back to ARR and hung out in Ultima Thule, and it was awesome, and I loved it. I also hung out in Radzahan, and even though the tombstone vendors are no longer there, the music is way better.
As much as I love the Close in the Distance, I'm a huge space fan. Anything space, anything science fiction, so that had struck a chord with me.
High five.
You know, Sludge just said in chat they're sad it got replaced by the song as much as they like it, but like I just enjoyed the progression. I mean, that was a brilliant idea to really
the progression was really nice and very thematic, but by the end I was like, can I go back now though?
Yeah,
I like the first one.
Exactly. Like it was good to go through, but then I wanted to pick my progress point.
Yeah.
It just felt like, I don't know, the very first one where it didn't have any progression, it just felt like you were adrift in space, and I wanted that.
You want that back. I do as well. When I go there now, I actually love the song, but I've just heard it so much, and so, you know, sometimes vocal can take you out of immersion, and I think that's kind of where I sit on that over time.
I actually mute BGM every time I go to Ultima Thule.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I do as well, because I just can't handle it. I need to be able to listen to it when I'm in the mood, or else it's going to cause me to weep.
Oh.
Hi, Bambi.
Like, it's really
Hi,
good.
Bambi.
I love it, but jeez.
For me, it's just too distracting as something that should technically sort of be zone ambient.
That's
I
tough.
mean, if I wanted to chill at some place with ambient music, I mean, lo-fi Ultima Thule is great, but since it's basically ruined between quotes, I prefer to go to Mara Lamentorum for that.
No, I hang out in Almarang in the daytime.
Wait, you guys are actually playing the game?
Yeah.
No.
I actually spend a lot of hangout time in Pandemonium. Actually, I like the chill music.
Yeah, I enjoy spending time
And
there
my
as
boyfriend's.
well, and also in Elpis and in Amarant still.
Well, I'm
This
not.
is also very good.
Depends. I'm not in, like I told you, I'm not in my highest 14 mood right now. I basically getting in to do the expert roulette because I need to the fucking last radiant piece of gear, but that's it, because I'm right now vibing in 13 mood. I'm like that. I jump from 14 to 13. but
It's pretty
yes, I
normal.
mean,
It's normal, yeah.
yeah, I guess.
This is the post
And then
MSQ lull.
yeah, until April, I have time to go a bit off with 13, or maybe if this wasn't the case, what?
I'm sorry.
What?
I thought you said you had time to go beat off with 13.
That's what I heard too.
I mean,
Right.
We're
we're
a
all
Christian
thinking
show.
it.
All right, Kirby.
Kirby. Hey, Kirby's a murderer, okay?
My brother in Zodiac, we love the Will of the Star here.
Yeah, so I just don't know how to progress the zone. I mean, we arrive.
We arrive and we find out that Thancred is the Dragon Star Part 1.
Sort of. I mean, we say that
We
as a joke,
arrive.
but what's going on
We
is
arrive and we instantly don't really care about what's going on because we already know that we have Deus Ex Heidelin in our pocket.
Yeah, that did kind of ruin the movie. a little bit.
Yeah.
It did. So as soon as people started dying, I was like, well, I know they're coming back, so
I never took them as deaths. I took them as banishment. They're using emotional energy to
Yeah.
create the
I
landscape.
took that as banishment up until later when I talked to Urianger, and he actually noted that they did enter the Ethereal Sea. It's through the will of Heidelin's blessing that we brought them back.
She gave them enough time to persist that we could return them afterwards.
Yes.
So, like, unlike someone else, they will suffer living again through Heidelin's magic.
Yeah.
No,
Unlike
Jesus.
certain people who should have stayed, but less said about that.
I mean, listen, he was
Not
just
device.
tired of being alive, I guess.
That's fair. I can at
Yeah,
least sympathize with that.
X
I
number
feel
of
like
years plus
Thancred's
12K, just time to reset, thanks.
Yeah. Thancred's disappearance really hit correctly to me. Like, shit went crazy. There was jump scares, and then he was just gone. And I was like, oh no, we are in so much trouble. But then when, like, we see Estinian sacrifice himself, I feel like maybe if it'd been off screen, it might have been too creepy for some people, and I understand that. But by the time I saw him go, I was like, okay, so he's going to be back.
I just like that he backsassed the hell out of that dragon.
Yeah, they were trying to make like a Heaven's Ward comment with that, and it was interesting for that reason. But ultimately, it still felt a little hollow for the same reasons that they all did.
And I know a lot of people really did get emotional over it. I just didn't personally have such a connection with the science that didn't hit me in the same way as a result.
Yeah,
For
same.
people like us who kind of go super detailed about little things, such as, we noticed that Heidelin gave us that blessing in the crystal so we can give form to the formless and all that. So that when we go to Ultima Thule, we can bring them back. And, for other players that don't like to look at those things, that like to take it casually, that like to, just experience the story their own way, they get emotional about it because they didn't really think that it was possible. Would they see themselves their scions just sacrificing themselves left and right. They're never going to see them again up until the end, and then they're back, and whoo.
See, this is where I kind of think that Ishikawa's writing works against her, because since pretty much Stormblood, we haven't really seen the game commit to killing people. And so I'm already used to this from Shadowbringers, where it's like, oh yeah, they're dead, but they're not dead. Actually, even back to Stormblood, when Ashtola got slashed by Xenos.
I would argue.
So as soon as they're like quote unquote dead, I'm like, well, I've already had 2 expansions of fake out deaths. I'm not buying it until it's like, yeah, they're dead and they're never coming back.
This is where I think keeping My Hero on the team probably would have benefited, because he does not care or does not shirk from killing characters. We saw Papalymo die under his observation as the of the MSQ. We saw Harshafant die under his observation of the MSQ.
Sale, yeah.
Sale, he is not afraid to pull that trigger. and the entire Heavensward team went to work on Final Fantasy 16, so you're going to see deaths there too. So
yeah, and I completely agree, Rick and Jack. I really do feel also they could have done the same thing without quote unquote killing people, and just made it a little more impactful for me, because like when they quote unquote sacrifice themselves, I was like, all right, well, they'll be back, so I'll just do this part by myself, I guess.
It was predictable. It was a predictable narrative, perhaps for as Ayumi said, for us, because you can read what's going to happen ever since, well, the end of the Mother Crystal. What I was actually interested was how it was going to be executed. But by the time Estinian makes his sacrifice, I realized, oh, this is how it's going to be. I was more interested in the reasoning, like for example, how Yestola and Urianger reason to reply to the yeah, or how Graha replies to Sir, and then the twins come from Meteon. I was more interested in what they were telling them than the sacrifice itself.
Yeah, that was what I kind of got from it too. Was like it gave you a lot of insights to their characters and how much they'd grown, and that was the most important element of it.
I just wanted to touch back on what Neela said. I do think that the first Thancred hit correctly, because none of us were in tears. It was it's abrupt,
Shock.
right?
It was shock,
more
yeah.
like, this
Yes,
this
absolutely
happened,
shock.
Yeah,
everything was great.
you felt like you were suffocating along with him and them.
Well, it's also, it was
no.
unanswered. We're walking around this zone. He is gone. It wasn't really. This isn't something, it's too urgent. We've got to move forward. So you have this event that occurs on the ship where extra dimensional being says, "Get off my lawn," and Thancred says, "No,
It did
please."
not hit, because as soon as Heidelin gave us that blessing, I immediately was like, plot device secured, no one's gonna die.
Well, I'm trying to redefine the word hit. I don't mean we're sure they're dead. I mean,
so look, for me,
vibe of
it
the
was it was like how death would probably be in real life in that situation. Like, you blink and that's it. They're
That's
gone.
it.
Like
Yep.
there's no death speech. There's no monologue.
Yep.
It's just boom,
That's it.
and they're gone. That's it.
Yep.
See, I was just mainly happy about Meteon being this creepy space being than anything else.
I was really impressed that they took the triumphant ride out to nowhere to no, you can't really touch this thing. What are you doing here?
It was
you
that
fools?
aspect of it was very good by me to go there and be like, actually, this is something beyond your comprehension. You are in over your head. You don't know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was glad that they did that, because when we were going out there, I was thinking, like, did anyone miss the part where this place is ruled by Dynamis? Like, hello?
We're only allowed, I mean, as much as we pull off these gambits to progress the zone, we are only allowed to be doing this. I mean, it's like, at any moment, Endsinger could have said, "Get the hell out." And it's like,
get off my lawn.
It's like our Meteon was just curious,
Yeah, it really bothered me that she was like, "Oh, it's so easy to unmake you people. I could just think it and it's done. So why didn't you?"
Yeah.
I interpreted that as Meteon still had a piece of hope in her, that she wanted us to succeed, and was like permitting us to exist because she wanted us to succeed.
The one who's escorting us, sort of, is our
Meanwhile,
Meteon.
I see it. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Neela.
Just real quick, wanted to note that she also was given a directive to learn from others, and I think that's what we're seeing there. She learned from these shades. She kept the shades around to continue to learn from these civilizations. But when we arrived, she's like, "Ah, yes, well, my directive is to learn, share your feelings, know your thoughts." So I think she's doing a bit of that too.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. The base program.
Like when. However, when Core says that Meteon may be holding on to a little bit of hope, I don't think it's impossible. But meanwhile, I'm the other way. I think Meteon, as a whole, as a hive mind, the purpose was to see the group break into despair before unmaking them, which is another possibility.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
I do think it was interesting that they pretty much said, well, one, the Omicrons took a net loss from destroying the dragon, so it wasn't worth it. They didn't really get more out of it than they sacrificed. And it led to ultimately them running out of purpose, but also that the dragons weren't all wiped out by the Omicrons. They just slowly died off themselves due to the basically death of their planet.
Yeah, this is curious. During the AlphaScape series, when we fight Midgardsormr in his youthful form, we see the state of that planet, and I took that as a direct recording. This is what Omega saw, and so that planet looks super fucked up. I mean, truly like the end of Namek or something from Dragon Ball.
Yeah, it looked like the planet was bleeding, and that was the same thing we saw in Ultima Thule, where you've got the jets of that green energy.
Yep.
And I just immediately thought back to Neela's video on color inversion, where green is the highest energy color in 14. And so it was literally like the planet is just bleeding aether. And I thought it was like the life stream or something just venting out into space.
Same.
It kind of feels like it, yeah.
That's like the final gasp of a world is when it dissipates. And like the lifeblood of the planet is just out to space. Ooh,
yeah,
boy.
and overall, Ultima Thule, they really like also the environment. It's not because it's not just. I mean, the parts you can visit. There's the Dragon Star. There's the planet of the Ea. There's Alphatron, and then there's this part of Ostrakon Enna, which is the necropolis, which is really. I mean, the Ea were really interesting, but the necropolis on Ostrakon Enna, that's probably the one that's the creepiest and the most interesting for me. Like, what the fuck? I don't know.
There's nobody there.
Yeah, what happened? You see, it's like you see the scenery, but you don't see the actors, and you're like, it's kind of an eerie feeling. And then you, aside from the dead sun that presides over the sky of Ultima Thule, then you see other plants around that are all kinds of different fucked up states, and that you're like, I mean, they're beautiful, but they're also creepy, and it's like. In a sense, I get when Mityon said you in that line about it will be beautiful, and it's like, I hate to give it to you, but kind of it is.
It reminds me of what Van Daniel said in the Zodiac trial.
Yeah, oh yes.
Oh yes.
Yep.
That was such a good callback. Like,
yes,
you listened to, I think it was Sludge Prince actually who pointed it out to me and is like, wait, this is the thing from Elpis. And I was like, wait, oh my god, you're right. It's very deftly done, that part.
So that, and yeah, and we already knew, well, from those who play the Omega raids, we knew the dragons from Heavensward. We knew we get to know the Omicrons, and I think, and yes, the new thing, the completely new things, as far as I know, are the Ea.
I did want to touch on the Ea. I'll let you finish though.
But
I think that might have been your intro to the Ea.
So yeah, Estinian sacrificed himself, and as soon as he did it, like Rick and Jack said, I was like, oh, they're all going to sacrifice themselves, and then they're going to come back. So as soon as Estinian did that, I was like, well, they're all going to die, and they're going to come back. So I feel nothing for this. So that's fun.
Although he did make a badass speech at those dragons.
He did. But then we go to the abode of the Ea, which was freaking awesome, because here's a race that we've never heard of before, that basically transcended their physical bodies and just became ethereal energy, basically. But they were pretty much fixated on knowledge and discovering, what lies at the root of the universe. And they figured out that, hey, the universe is flying apart and it's accelerating. And eventually, it's going to die. All the stars are going to go out, and then we'll enter the age of black holes, and life won't be possible anymore. So why bother doing anything? And that's kind of what gave rise to their despair, which I thought was really interesting. And I'll address the dark energy thing in a little bit, but I just kind of want to hear you guys' thoughts on the AI.
I really like the messaging. Go ahead, Sarah.
The first thing that struck me about them was actually the design of them and their buildings. Like, it actually really reminded me a lot of LucasArts' The Dig from the early 90s, and how it was designed, and the way that everything looked alien but had like those glyphs on it and everything, like that were glowing. And the idea of alien beings that had been trying to overcome death and had succeeded but at a terrible cost. It really felt like a little bit of a callback to that game and its story, and that we were like the astronauts now coming in to like see the aftermath and learn from them, and trying not to make the same mistakes that they did.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
The counter logic that they're trying to teach us through this expansion is like, the answer is because you're here. That's why you don't give up, and that's why you bother. It's because you are here.
Thank you for I'm sorry. That line just gave me a bout of 13 feelings. Thank you, Fal.
Only 13?
Only 13 feelings?
Everything is 13.
Lightning Returns.
Lightning Returns Final Fantasy 13 feelings, to be more precise. It doesn't help that it's a line that's said by a character literally named Hope.
Kira said that their view is consistent with the law of thermodynamics. We actually made a video about this where Aether is actually also consistent with the law of thermodynamics, where in Shadowbringers we see that Alice tells us that Aether naturally tends toward equilibrium, as does thermodynamics. And it also obeys the third law of thermodynamics, where a crystallized form has zero entropy, which is what we saw in the Mother Crystal, where it is basically pure light and has zero entropy. So we also assumed that Aether could neither be created nor destroyed, and I will also address this later after we talk about dark energy.
Yay, science.
Science. There's a lot of science, like real life scientific principles that they put into this game, and it's really, really awesome to kind of see these pop up and be like, hey, we can extrapolate, a little bit more about the Final Fantasy XIV world based on this real life theory that they're putting into this game, except for dark energy, which is kind of like, we know it exists, but that's it. And so they just like, it's the energy of emotion. Let's do whatever the fuck we want with it.
I'll go ahead and link that video for Rick and Jack and for the rest of our audience. Give me a moment.
I was just so impressed with the idea of them having a cat girl talking to what were essentially little angels with halos on their heads about the heat death of the universe.
It's an amazing set piece.
I was less focused on the Aya and more freaking out about the mobs in that section of the map because they're from 11. Honestly. Fucking Luminians. I was just like, okay, now I have to overanalyze the Aya constantly to see if this is some like weird Final Fantasy 11 tie-in or some shit.
Dynamis isn't Dynamis a place in 11?
Yes, it's a terrible place. Never go there.
Dynamis is the content that you will hear me occasionally bitch about because I lost 6 levels in one run.
Yeah. It's a PRD leveling place.
Yeah, basically. It's in-game content in 11 where you go into alternate versions of the city-states in a couple different zones that are basically being consumed by darkness, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
DMT, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I mean, it's...
we're gonna talk about Dynamis. It's gonna happen.
I love the way that the soul bubbles that are the AI just kind of blobulate around.
Yeah,
it's great. It was entertaining. I mean, that's another thing about cats and yarn that I was a little bit concerned about. The,
that
the Aya bobbing around. Maybe the feral instincts
and the
come out.
side quest. That and the side quest in which you make one of them turn into an Amazu.
No.
You do what now?
I'm gonna do that side quest now.
You can tell them. You can teach them about the life forms on Etheris because they're interested in getting their own fleshy bodies back, and you suggest such that they actually recreate an Amazu body for themselves.
I mean, I guess that works since they really want to die.
That's amazing. Like that's like the ultimate life form.
I had a good laugh at that. Yes. Yes.
So I will freely admit I usually do hold off on doing side quests for a while. I don't know if I can hold off anymore because that sounds incredible.
Those and the Elpis ones are just too good to not do.
Subscribe.
Just have one of those little fish thingies from the dead ends. Just give them a plague.
There's a
million great lofts. Little great lofts.
Foul, by the way, the subscribe button in the stream description is a dead link. That's because we don't want people to subscribe. We're too offensive and bad.
Thank you. I'll take care of it after the stream. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for letting us know.
I also think that's really interesting that the Aya just have oh god, what's it called? The eye thing from the Sigmascape. Was it Sigmascape? Deltascape 2. Calamity, is that right?
Catastrophe,
thank you. Just kind of wandering around their planet. Yeah, the eyeball.
When I saw those, they made me think of like the Sound Beasts a little bit, and how there was actually a model like that was in
that's true.
Kemet Samurott that had that same model. I was wondering if that was like an indication that the Ea they were on their way out and Medion found them like that and final days them.
So yes, Medion did actually final days them. That was confirmed in one of the MSQ cutscenes where they called it a panic-induced calamity. So they did get final dazed. Medion did kill the Aya eventually.
At least they got what they wanted, sort of.
Kind of, yeah. But yeah, I think it's really interesting that they're pretty much like, yeah, everything's gonna die anyway, so let's just die now because nothing we're gonna do matters. They even had those gravestones where a lot of them didn't leave any epitaphs because they're like, well, anyone who reads it's just gonna die and it's not gonna matter. So let's just die anyway.
Cobran, could you check live chat really quick?
Yes.
Continuing on, because we're at the Aya, and have we pretty much said everything we need to say about the Aya?
I think so.
Yeah.
There's something about the that in a sense Stoller was right. That of course the theory of heat death of the universe would mean that everything would eventually freeze, and it would be an eternity of frozen universe and that. But the AI concluded that no one would ever recover anything from that. But in all honesty, they don't know past that point. Like, if we go with Big Bang Theory, it seems like there's an infinitesimal possibility that such a tiny particle would explode for some godforsaken reason into the universe. So who knows what would happen after that? I mean,
yeah, they make the assumption that it's just going to end with the heat death and that there wouldn't be anything afterwards, which we honestly don't know. And that would be getting into speculative science and physics, even in reality, but would especially be the case, I think, in their universe too.
That was the thing. Go ahead.
No, you.
That was the thing that was so kind of like, I get what they're saying 100%. I understand, but I'm also just sitting here laughing. I'm like, everything else reincarnates. Why wouldn't the universe itself reincarnate?
Yeah, like where did that initial Big Bang start? That particle, it probably came from the coalescing of a previous universe that itself died and then blew up and then died and blew up, and just on and on and on.
So I for our great filter video, I actually read through the entirety of the 3 body problem series, which includes the Dark Forest. And they actually explain kind of what happens. And it's kind of interesting, their theory for it, where basically the universe just keeps collapsing dimensions until it collapses to a single point. So it went from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4 to 3, which we're in now, and then collapses to 2, and then 1 for the single point, which I thought was just a really interesting perspective on how the universe gets to a single point when it's pushing itself away from itself, basically, and getting bigger.
That's fascinating.
It
It's a
also
really good series.
I think about that, and I also think about how Stephen Hawking and other physicists have postulated that black holes actually record information from the matter that they
I
suck in,
saw that. Yes,
and
that
that
is
you could
awesome.
potentially consider them to be even a part of the catalytic effort. Like the way that the universe would then crush itself to that point would be through black holes as one mechanism,
Mhm.
using the information recorded to then build a new universe from the new particle that is then generated as a theory. And I think about that because there are black holes in Ultima Thule Sky that I always look at, and I'm like, yeah, those are probably going to be what creates the new world.
Mhm.
Bring the new world back. Don't bring that up.
It's another Final Fantasy 13 reference for those who don't know.
I need to play that series. I've got like 3 games in front of it, but yeah, I'll play it eventually.
Only because I'm bothersome enough.
So at this point, now that we're talking about the AI, I kind of want to segue into Dynamis and talk a little bit about that. When we're in Elpis, we learned that it makes up 68.3% of the universe, which we know from science is the exact composition of our universe of dark energy, which means that it has similar composition where Aether is about 5%. Dark energy is about 68.3, and what dark energy does, or Dynamis in this case, is it's pushing the universe away from itself and spreading everything out. But we know from real life science that dark matter is what is holding galaxies together, because there's not enough mass in galaxies to account for the gravitational pull they have. So they don't interact with light or anything, but they do interact with gravity. So I'm really wondering what that other 27% that's still left in the 14 universe, how they're going to translate that in game. Because we have Dynamis as the energy of emotion, and then Aether, which is physical, mind, and soul energy, which I kind of equate to water. So you've got ice, gas form of water, and then liquid water. They're all the same thing, but it's just different states that they take. But how are they going to translate dark matter, which is kind of the opposite of Dynamis, into the game?
It's an open question, and one that they may end up not exploring for some time, but that I do hope they get to eventually. And if they've gotten to these other energy forces, I should think that they will.
I hope so. I really do, because it would explain a lot about what happened in Vanaspati, where I don't know if I know I've mentioned it before in chat about the freeze in theory of dark matter. Do any of you remember that?
Vaguely.
Vaguely. Okay. Basically,
it's a lot of big ideas, which is cool.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. But basically, the freeze in theory of dark matter is that when the universe was still young, there was an equal amount of dark energy, dark matter, and matter, which they call baryonic matter, which is what we see every day. But that because of the conditions in the early universe, whenever a particle of dark matter interacted with a particle of baryonic matter, the baryonic matter would be destroyed, but it would produce another particle of dark matter. So if we know that baryonic matter is basically the Aether equivalent, we would see it as destroying the Aether, but we wouldn't see what it created. So when Medion was turning people and converting their souls in Aether, and Ishla was seeing it rot away, it was creating something else, but we couldn't see it or knew what it was.
Yeah, that was my read as well.
So yeah, that's what I wanted to mention about Dynamis and dark energy and dark matter. I just thought it was really interesting. Where if we have these parallels, then we can draw these conclusions based on that.
Does this have any implication for Return of Souls, as Medion mentions at the very end after the trial?
No, but it does hold with energy conservation. So we know that the energy of Aether can't be created or destroyed, but if the Aether is going away, so it's not Aether anymore, it has to be going to something else. So there is something else out there. We just don't know what.
This also makes me think of Vanna's fate a little bit differently as well in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So the energy of her soul isn't gone. It's just gone into this other form of energy that is basically unaddressed in the game so far.
Wouldn't it be interesting if you had forms of life based in that form of energy as a result of this kind of thing, and they reincarnated as the first of them?
That would be awesome.
It would be awesome. Although we know somewhat in our universe, at least, that our form of life is made of the most common things in existence. So if something was going to be made into life, the elements that make us up are the most common. I forget where I heard that. In other words, carbon-based is based on our understanding the most likely possible mode of life.
So that I'm sorry, I keep jumping in. There are actually two theories that, and I think they're actual real scientific theories that come up in the three-bodied problem series. One is called the shooter theory. So if you're at a gun range and you shoot a piece of paper and you place all the bullet holes 10 centimeters apart, just in a line, boom, boom, boom. And then there are two-dimensional creatures on that piece of paper, and they see all these holes, and they're like, okay, every 10 centimeters, there is a hole in the universe, because that is all they know.
Mm-hmm.
Then, that's wrong, but it's correct based on their small perspective of what the universe is.
Absolutely. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And then the farmer theory, which is a horrific theory, which is basically there are a group of turkeys and they're like, okay, every morning at 7:00, food comes because the farmer comes out and gives them food. And then the scientist turkey is like, all right, I'm going to announce this theory tomorrow morning and it's going to be great. And the next day dawns.
Turkey.
Yeah. And the next day dawns and they're like, all right, it's 7:00. The food is coming and it's Thanksgiving Day and they all get killed.
Wow. That's dark.
It is.
But that's real life, everybody.
We're just gobbling up those theories today.
Welcome to the universe.
Gobble gobble.
That honestly though, that the fact that Endwalker spawned all of these very deep philosophical and scientific discussions is really, really fascinating, really cool to me. That's one of the things I really, really liked about this expansion.
That's what I really like about this game, is that it builds up to the point where we can even have these kinds of discussions with this much depth.
And they make sense a lot of times within the game, like talking about dark matter, learning about dark energy. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, like the story and the game have their share of plot holes like anything else, but I tend to think it's a lot more tight of a ship overall.
Yeah.
I've done mediums.
I've done way more research into scientific theories and stuff since Endwalker dropped than in the 7 years before I.
I mean, I always had a fascination with astronomy and theoretical physics anyway, but like going into like context like this has only made me want to go back and look at that stuff again and learn new things, because it's just that engaging, and it also gives me ideas for fan fiction, and I'm like, I want to write about this too.
Yeah.
Yeah, same, Rick and Jack. The philosophical exploration gives me a lot of hope for the direction and future of the story and lore. Absolutely. So there may be things that I disagree with in the game, but I have no doubt that it's going to go in a direction that makes me think about stuff and blows my mind to a certain extent and emotionally engages me. So I absolutely agree.
I agree completely as well with that.
Yeah. Those are like the two big things for me when I look for a game, especially a story-driven game. I want to have emotional entanglement. I want to have emotional connection, a reason to care, and I want it to make me think and stop and reconsider things that I've, not thought about for ages. And this game really does both, and I love it.
It's been a gripping tale.
Wow.
Sugoi.
Wow, sugoi.
Get out.
Every week is Shark Week on Lorelines, ladies and
Look,
gentlemen.
every week is Shark Week. My goodness.
Oh my god.
Hiflodeus hates it here.
I keep going back to that scene whenever we mention
Wow,
it.
it's useless.
Wow, it's useless. The fact that he was so utterly shocked that there was a shark man there. Just, I can do nothing, terror.
And how it gets mad at him, that was great.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, the shark craze made it to Elvis. Oh no.
I'm pretty sure that means it passes the Harkness test.
Dragoon dive.
Don't worry about it.
And then Hiflodeus meets Leviathan and just quits the world.
And at least Leviathan isn't very shark-like.
Yeah, Leviathan is.
No, they just made a shark that looks like a snake.
I bet that was Hermes' take on the fad.
What if we take the shark, but we stretch it out?
Oh no!
Make it a wormy little lad.
Then show him eating Leviathan.
Two heads, no tail.
Anyways,
it's all heads.
Oh god.
So yeah, I actually, when going, passing the air, that's actually when Meteon mentions when we're on the way to the segment of Ultima Thule that is the Alpha Turn Star. It's when Meteon explains what the dead son of Ultima Thule is, which is her ultimatum as she describes it. And it's meant to be how should I put this? It's like a container for live streams that no one she kills people, but what she does is preventing them from being reborn ever, and
or at least sitting on them.
Exactly.
Yes, and
obviously we put the lie to the ever, but yes, that was her intent.
And the moment I read that, it's a no reincarnation clausule, and I'm like, I need a moment.
I want to just quickly on that topic, just visually, if we can imagine the Endsinger going around the various planets, sucking all of the life juice out of them and hoarding it at the edge of the universe in a giant dead star egg. Like that's some dark shit.
Might actually be happening in some other universe if there's a multiverse theory that holds.
I don't want to think about the multiverse.
I mean, just think about the 8th Emerald timeline that Graha comes from, and then join my hell, where I'm just like,
Here comes that Slurpee straw.
Yep.
Well,
I'm so
if
tempted.
that's the case, that timeline's screwed, but yeah.
I mean, it's definitely screwed one way or another.
Yeah.
Thanks, I hate it.
Even if Zodiac persists forever, the death of the universe is still coming.
And then there's the whole, what if Square decides that interdimensional travel between the timelines needs to happen again?
Oh god. So we'll pretend nobody ever said that ever.
Yeah.
You don't want In Singer 2 Electric Boogaloo?
Like there's only one way that would be good, and that would be because certain people would still be alive, but other than that, I wouldn't want it.
Yeah.
No, Rick and Jack, Xenos from another universe tears through to our rift and is the warrior of light.
Yes!
Oh my god.
My enemy, my friend!
Oh my god.
Oh, I'm so happy to see you. I thought I'd lost you. Why do you retreat from me so?
Thanks, I hate it.
I'm sensing Ayumi's teeth like screeching from here, and I'm across the ocean. I'm across the ocean, so.
Yeah, Ayumi's probably just chewing on his microphone.
What do you think I'm doing? Mention time travel to me at all. See what happens. Bet.
Does anybody want to take a tangent? I can supply 2 tangents if you want one.
No, we're not doing this today. We're here to talk about Ultima Thule, not time travel.
No, it's not time travel.
Good. Continue.
I mean, considering how fast we got to Ultima Thule, there could have been time travel involved. You don't know.
Space-time
You guys put me in
faster than light.
a video and made a parody of me. Let's go.
It was great. And hilarious, and nobody watched it.
It was a great time and a part of all of our days.
I'm just the butt of the joke every episode.
The butt.
Yes, I said that for a reason.
You're the time butt.
Jeez.
Anyways, Omicron.
Yes, Omicron.
Yeah, ice skating robots.
What?
They do
I
figure skating.
like them. I find them strangely adorable. The Omicrons.
And they're random axolotl just wandering around.
Yes, but I mean they're murder robots, but they're like sort of adorable.
I love the murder robots. They're great. They're like the Borg, but not scary.
I mean, they're scary if you're a dragon.
They're scary if you're not our party of adventurers.
They're scary if they think you're strong.
Exactly.
If that new Omega series, quest series coming out is our trial series, and the murder robots get another chance at being scary.
No, I want the 4 elemental fiends. Fuck that. That'll be the new diadem or Eureka or whatever the fuck.
Maybe they put them both together.
Oh god.
No, the new trial series, or not the new trial series, but the new relic series, gonna be Dalmasca Part 2.
Yes, please.
You mean Part 3?
Part 3.
Fine. Yeah.
And then all of the Eastern audience gonna love it. Western audience hate it.
Isn't it the other way around?
Probably.
I don't know.
I got that twisted.
I thought the Evilly stuff was fine, and Bozja could have been better, but.
Anyways, continuing back to the ice skating robots.
Yes. I like how they greet you to the Omicron camp like we're preparing to war. Like you can, I mean, we don't have any beef with you, but in case your planet is selected as our new target, then we would have to consider what we're going to do with you. And it's like, well, that's, I don't know if that's comforting or threatening.
Not threatening. I'll break all of them.
Ever see a killing machine dance in the pale moonlight?
I mean, otherwise they're kind of friendly. So
yeah,
to speak. I mean, they're just they're just hostile. I mean, in a sense, from what I gleaned from the first Omicron we meet, they weren't strangers to having visitors from other stars because they hardly react at all. They apparently you're a visitor from another star. Okay, fine. Then welcome to the Alphatron star. They basically greet you like that, and they were pretty chill about telling you that, well, we're preparing to conquer another planet. We still haven't decided, so you can go around, ask whatever you want. It's fine unless your planet is selected to be conquered.
I think one of the most interesting thing about the Omicrons was how they were a mirror for Garlemald, where Garlemald became the conqueror because they were tired of being oppressed and they developed this Mazatec technology, whereas the Omicrons were like, well, we don't want to be the subjugated, so let's subjugate others before they can do it to us. It was a very very dark forest kind of look on things, where it's like either you are the one who conquers and destroys other people, or they will destroy you.
I was really intrigued by their creation story, where they weren't actually always robots. They, through the process of engineering and upgrading and deciding biology was inferior, they slowly turned themselves into robots. And then in the Omega Raid series, the linchpin of that story is, if we were more like you, could we find our home again?
Right.
It's like they lost their humanity
Not
intentionally,
just that.
and
If
then
you
wanted it back.
I mean, if you pause to consider the trial series of Shadowbringers, the Guardians, well, a faction of the Guardians at least, they were quite close to actually start going Omicron territory. If you recall what Valens van Barra did to Alphonse.
I don't want to think about Valens van Vara.
Yeah, he's the one character in this game that I do not wish to acknowledge ever again.
Fair.
Anyway,
Wondering if thus the Omicrons have milk like Valens from
back sweat milk drinker, dude. Burn out the good for the bad, or whatever.
Yeah. Anyways, so
the most important thing for the Omicrons, at least for me, just to kind of end off my own thought, was they definitely had the signs that they were still like able to. They were still able to like empathize and understand like emotions and things of that nature to some extent, but they were struggling with maintaining what we would call humanity. And you could see that especially with that one Omicron in the tree, and then being really like upset about that being all that was left of one of the things they had conquered.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that to be pretty resonant. Like that, their way is also a dead end in that sense, not just in the you're going to destroy everything that you end up conquering, and it isn't really going to be worth it in the end. It's also going to rob you of everything that's worth living for too.
I completely agree, and I don't know why, but the tree was so impactful. Where they're like, we tried to save it, and we integrated our technology with it just so it could live in our environment, just so we could have a memory of this civilization that used to be, and that really hit me. And I will say that a lot of things in this zone resonated with me emotionally, to the point where I was just like in tears by the end of it.
It's, I mean, the Omicron's story, like, that's, I mean, losing their entire purpose and being a machine to top, being a machine to boot, it's like, it's not that, it's like they could, I mean, other people, when they find a dead end, no pun intended, they can, they can search for another purpose, but the Omicrons, the way Sir explained, they literally could not, because they had turned into machines that work on directives and not free will, so to speak. So they it's like it's like, you know, the troop of robotics eat away your soul, that basically. But apparently, but then there's the post and worker main scenario quest line and the dungeon, and there's I don't want to spoil if you haven't cleared that dungeon, but the quest is interesting in regards to the Omicrons and what they can actually become, you know, because they believe that they can't evolve or that, but I don't think that's exactly the case. That depends on the criteria that you would have to meet to sort of be granted a soul. But that's another kind of worms.
Yep.
But yeah, I like the Omicrons.
It's a very interesting thing to me to be like, oh, well, you lost all biological thing, and it kind of implies the soul's biological. We know that's not entirely true because we've seen little Omega gets a soul, at the end of the whole Omega Quest thing. So it's very odd. It felt odd to have them be like, oh, well, you got rid of your bodies and now no more souls. And I'm like, I feel like that should be harder, maybe, but not impossible.
Yeah, it's definitely not impossible. I mean, we have an example of that, like you said, with the OMG.
Yeah, but we don't see it from when they talk about the Omicron. It's like they conveniently forgot about that.
It could be any number of years in the future. It could be never. It's up in the air, but it's possible. It's kind of like
could be an Ethereus only thing.
Correct, but yeah, through experiment and like experience, actually gaining data sets, it's possible that maybe they'll be able to bootstrap Will again in the future. It does seem like Omega did.
It wouldn't be it wouldn't be the first story about a robotic entity gaining a soul from interaction with, well, a soul or feelings, or there's a lot of fiction about that. I mean, iRobot, it's the most known, but artificial intelligence is another great one. So yeah, it's hardly a new topic,
I would argue that Omega gained a soul by the time we actually fought Omega MF. At that point, when grief and remorse were being expressed, not just cold-hearted failure. And then the minion later on, the small text indicates that. Well, no, what was it? We're hearing the bot now. Wasn't that the case, guys? It's been too long. Stormblood.
What?
It was something about our echo is able to translate the thoughts of a being that we weren't able to before, implying there was a soul. And I can't quite put the order of events together.
The thing about that short story about the Omega AI that's in the minion accompanying Alpha, by the end of that short story, is that it comes to glimpse the nature of hope. But for that, I guess that Omega first have to feel the grief and sorrow that you first mentioned. It's okay. It's a complicated feeling, hope.
So, Rick and Jack asked, aren't most of the Omicrons just following Omega's directive? So no, Omega was part of the Omicrons, but they were all following Sir's directive. I think it might be just a.
They were kind of like a hive mind, a collective consciousness. So they all collectively made decisions, but some of them were more built purpose-wise towards making decisions, like Sir, like Stigma One, as opposed to an Omega, which was more of like just a very advanced combat machine, a chassis.
And then there's the Omicrons themselves, and then there's Omega has a high degree of intelligence, but it's more combat oriented, probably the most advanced combat machine. And then we see in the Dreamscape a lot of minor units that apparently are just built for combat. So yeah.
I think it was just really interesting to see both the Dragon Star and the Omicrons in here. So the Omicrons were they would have been Deca Octo. Or no, sorry.
No,
they were the Dragon Star was Deca Octo, and the Omegas they were the 16th, which would be Deca Hepta.
Yeah, and the 17th, I think. I think it's the 17th.
No, the 17th was Rala's World.
Oh, okay then.
So Hex is for 6 and Hept is for 7.
Yeah, Decahexy.
Yeah, Decahexy is the Omicrons.
Yeah.
Makes sense because there's a lot of now I'm feeling a bit stupid for realizing now, but Hexy being the Omicron's world and the hexagon pattern of the Alphatron.
Mm-hmm.
That's a nice pun, visual pun.
I do think it's really interesting though that all of the words from Greek are either misspelled or have an extra letter. So Deca, it's either a C or a K,
It's
but
a
they're
C. It's a
transposed.
C.
Yeah, but it should be a K.
I think it's a matter of pronunciation because for English translation, I mean for us, for mostly Mediterranean languages, that C is the sound of a K. But for you, it can depend. So I guess it's more like so you know how to approach pronunciation from Greek, you know.
Right. But then there's the instance of stigma instead of sigma, where they added a T into the word. So that makes me think that it's very intentional and purposeful on the localization team's part.
Well, considering the meaning of stigma, yeah, it can be.
No. That's just the impression I got.
No, it's fair. I was thinking sometimes because I was trying to think about some other names in Greek names or numbers that are technically misspelled, and I was thinking how they would sound to you in English without these like phonetic clues, like Ostrakon henna. If it was missing the H, perhaps you would go Ostrakon ina. I don't know. I'm just.
So, I do want to latch onto that. What you said, Ostrakon, which is really interesting. And I was like, I saw that and I was like, what the hell does Ostrakon mean? What is that? And
it's
I looked
a fragment of pottery.
Yeah, it's a fragment of pottery. So it's like a piece of a world that is here in Ultima Thule. And I thought that was just really a really cool way of describing these pieces of world where it's like a shattered piece of what once was a whole.
One might even call it a shard.
It's actually very specifically, you're familiar with the word ostracized, I'm sure. Ostrakons are what they made to be like, yeah, we kicking this dude out.
Yeah, it's like the ancient Greeks. They would give a shard of pottery. This ostrakon to people they were exiling from their
ostracization.
Interesting. I never thought about that.
Like forever apart, so to speak.
So basically, it's like you're ostracizing them.
Well, that's not nice.
So yeah, so we move on to the necropolis then.
Yes.
Although I don't know what to say about the necropolis. It's just gone, but not gone, and it's like, and it's the first.
It's a cafe.
World. Yeah, but it's the first world that Meteon encounters apparently, because it's Ostrakon henna, and it's like it's empty, but it's like it's empty, but it's not in ruins. You know, that's the irony of the necropolis.
Yeah, Alphino and Alize were basically like, yeah, it looks like all the people could have just left like a moment ago, and now they're just gone, and we don't know where they went. There's no way to indicate what happened to them.
Yeah, I loved the inclusion of this because it doesn't necessarily mean they died. They could have ascended. They could have become energy beings and just left. They could have all died. They could have been dead for 15 millennia. We don't know. And I like that they left that open-ended where it's just kind of we don't know.
I like the idea that they're still there. They're just phased to a different level of existence.
No, I hate that.
Open-ended for now.
You don't like that, Cobran?
No, I hate that. It reminds me of God, what is it? I don't know why it reminds me of an episode of Star Trek.
Yeah, there's something.
Yeah,
there.
but not the one that actually has to do with that. It reminds me of the one where they all turn into kids, and I don't know why.
Well, that's a weird one.
I'm hoping that the Beast Tribe quest that they're setting up for that area tells us more, because I am really curious about what happened to that planet.
Yeah.
Come back in 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which actually, we are getting a trailer for 6.1 on Friday, I believe.
Yeah, Friday.
Exciting stuff.
Excited.
New adventure.
The 12.
Addressing question in chat, Sludge says the places included in Ultima Thule weren't the only other planets in the universe, right? That's right.
Nope.
It's just a sampling of what she visited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Matea had a massive number of planets. We assumed that they visited, but only a certain number of them were addressed in the actual quest line in Elpis. And we
And
have
even beyond that, like it's still
The,
just a small sampling of the wider universe, which is just
That's-
billions of places.
That's what I wanted to bring up. It's be like hundreds of them is actually a very, very small portion of the universe.
sample.
Even if they're only
judgment
going to
like
like
this?
Goldilocks planets.
Yeah, agreeing with Neela, going back a moment, right? So there's so many scientific principles in this game series that have been accurate, spot on, or damn close, that it's hard for us to accept the time stuff, but not getting into that now again. But also the small sample of worlds that have life across
Fermi paradox.
Right. So the idea that the Matea, even if they numbered in thousands of birds, as we see in the Endsinger fight, maybe they all visited a world and it's just not addressed in the plot, right? Maybe they all did. Maybe they got a massive sample. But even so, the idea that you can use that very small sample in a universe the size of our real one, when all of the other science seems to line up, is hard to accept, right? There's got to be millions of other worlds, and how dare you try to end the universe based on this tiny sample? That was something we discussed like week 1 or 2 coming back from the break.
Midgard Swarmer called Aetheris the last bastion of hope, but certainly there could have been others potentially.
Maybe out of reach, right? I mean,
yeah, I definitely attribute that to Midgard Swarmer interacting with Medion proper and learning about Aetheris from Medion, because we know that the 17th was really far out for the survey team, which means that which means Alphatron and the Dragon Star were both really far away. So they must have known that in the other direction, everybody was already dead. And then Medion was like, hey, there's a world that's full of life. It's just over this way. And when they get there, it's sundered. And they're like, well, whatever.
It's better than nothing.
I mean, it's still better than nothing, right?
Yeah, there's life there. So let's go.
And hey, since they're sundered, we're much bigger and badder, and we don't have to worry about them. Like, we can just sort of move in.
We can chill.
Yeah, and we don't have to worry. We don't have to worry about them killing us or starting a war because they're weak.
Well, we don't have to worry about them immediately nuking you.
They had to make a deal with Heidelin to stay, but yeah, basically they were allowed to set up shop. The poison chalice for them was that they became tools of the Asians as part of their schemes, ultimately.
It is a little odd. I wonder if she was like, okay, this area is uninhabited, so you can have it. And then I think that's how it happened. And then man just sort of naturally grew toward it, expanded.
Yeah, as we do.
Which is wild, because if the ancient world was as populous as it seems, shouldn't people have been everywhere?
I don't think it was. I think it wasn't that populated.
Well, we also know that people became different races, and we do know that there was a race already on Mericidia, and then there were refugees from one of the crises. Yeah. It was one of the calamities, and they fled to the south. I think it was during the Second Era, and that's when like human-ish people, not beastly people, arrived in Mericidia, and Bahamut and Tiamat were already there. So we know that it was kind of a mediation that Bahamut did, where it was like, hey, you both suck. I'm going to rule all y'all. And then they started living in peace, and then until the Aliens came.
I wish.
So yeah, in the end, they were basically the Sunder were having an unsundered ruler. Yeah, all the same story.
Pretty much. I think it's really interesting though that all of the civilizations we see are unsundered, which means that had they had the density of ether that Aetheris did, maybe they could have all been capable of creation magics. We don't know.
It does seem like this is
yeah,
a
dragons
unique
have that
capacity.
cool like singing music that they do, or voice.
That and they can shapeshift and change their bodies as they want.
As they age.
Kind of like ancient.
Not as they want. No, they shapeshift
Yeah,
as
it's
they
as they age.
They age into different forms, but we're not entirely clear. I don't think on like what the mechanism is
I
for
can speak on
determining
this a
like
little bit.
what form.
It's a selection pressure thing. Like if the one does a lot of crafting, then it develops a form that is good for crafting.
There you go.
Like Elto.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Omega certainly is capable of ether weaving, which is a form of creation magics.
But these are different things, right? It could very well be that the beings of Aetheris have a racial trait that is creation magic, because the other planets, they did other things. You know, we have the almost Earth that has the regular army and mecha civilization. We've got the space Namazu who die in swamp death, but basically they have scuba gear. We've got the dragons, which do what they do. We've got the Ea, which do what they do. It's all distinct and different. It's like the universe is experimenting with different configurations for what life can be.
Can I say I hate that you call the Grebulov Space Namazu,
I'm sorry.
even though they are.
They are.
Even though they absolutely are.
Graybloffs.
They're little cute otter people.
Yeah, they're little cute otter people.
Yeah, they're Space Namazu. Sorry.
Space Zoo.
It was bad enough that they all died out on the first.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorites.
On the first. Where are they? Oh.
No, they're all dead.
The big one.
They got eaten.
Me puts a bunch of them in my backpack. Hey guys, let's go on a trip.
Yeah.
Gonna reintroduce them to the ecology. Nothing could go wrong.
That explains how my retainer brought back a Grebulov for me.
Wow.
I want one. Maybe 5.
We're gonna repopulate them too.
If we're asking asking to get things, how about you get your own personal Rala? Praise be.
I don't want Rala. Rala's a failed son. I hate Rala.
Oh my god, no.
But what about a mount?
I would not.
Okay, so
that's fair.
It pains me how wrong you are that you do not accept the word of Rala in your heart.
You are wrong, and you accept the word of Rala into your heart and disintegrate.
Praise be to Rala.
Praise be to Rala.
There's only one way that I will accept a Rala mount, and that's if it only does the jumpy prance thing for movement.
That would be
oh my god, that would be great.
Okay, I might admit that that's a little attractive, but still.
Okay, so I gotta say, because Arden was the one who said it, I interpreted Rala mount in a completely different way. You are terrible, and so am I. We're all going to hell. But
well, now I know what monster I'm putting in my next chapter.
Rala, so.
Well, I mean, Rala's job is to kill you any way that it can.
I mean, it seems to be selecting the fortunate.
Yeah, it did leave people behind. It did leave people behind. That was really.
They were like complaining about it. They were like, "Come back!"
It's rapturing people. Like what more
oh my god, you're not
need?
wrong.
Yeah, that's exactly
Screw
right.
you, Rala.
I like that last episode. We
every
had
time
a
I
praise
kill
moment.
Rala, every time I kill Rala, I have a little bit of serotonin.
Did you say kill Graha?
Well, I mean, serotonin.
Yes, serotonin. Yes.
So I do have to openly admit, I just finished the last episode of Grahatia Ruins England, so that was fun.
Oh, Bridgerton or whatever?
Yes, it's so good.
Oh yeah, everybody was joking about how they wanted him to get into lewd situations because
he did, and now I have voice lines for the great work.
Yes, good. The Grahatia shippers will feed well.
Yeah, but he's not going to be in it. So there's another series though that I'm working on where it's what the fuck did I call it? Oh yeah, Alphino Warmonger.
Alphino Warmonger.
Oh god, one of my girlfriends will like that. She loves dunking on him.
Yeah, basically, he's like dead set on genocide. It's the only way.
So should we move to the end walk?
Yes. The part where this zone got like really good and really emotional for me was the end walk.
And you can hear all the quotes, and I'm just like, oh no.
Meanwhile, I was busy trying to recall from which scene was each quote.
Oh no, really? Like I was like, okay, this is from that. This is from that.
I recognize a fair few of them.
Yeah, like I recognize a lot of them. I was just kind of like, this is just so emotionally impactful just because these quotes all are things that we are not only remembering but internalizing and things that are pushing us forward. This is why we're here. These are the people that we are fighting for. And these are the connections that we've made that have given us the strength that we have to keep walking forward. And I was just like in tears by this point.
If you need a push, I'll be right there beside you.
Shut the fuck up.
So Rick and Jack says, I only wish that I had actually believed that the team was dead. I understand.
I agree.
We talked about this earlier, and I do agree-ish, but I also understand that Hydaelyn isn't all that cryptic, and the trial fight, we were all there. We know what she said. Warrior of Light has a power that can bring form to the formless, and so I don't think they were that scared. I think part of why they had the courage to give that up is because they knew there was a path back. And that also made it hit less hard because it's not a true sacrifice. It's a temporary cross our fingers. I'll probably be back sacrifice. I think they all knew better.
So,
especially the most intellectual among them. I'm certain they caught it.
But then Ishloa was like, "You can't use it. You mustn't use it.
You can't use it for us. Use it for the important shit." So we pull out that gambit, right? We pull out.
Yeah. So we bring out.
I did use it for the important shit. My husband.
So I think Neela wanted to say something.
Go ahead.
Right.
Sorry.
Neela.
Or is the mic just activated? Ooh, we can't hear you. I'm sorry. I see you lighting up, though. We'll give you a second.
Okay, it's like 5. Sorry. Anyway.
I also like that it's not just random quotes. It's just they're just a quote from each character that we walk past, but they also form a context. If you put all of them together, they're like a whole encouraging text put by like what you did for Ayumi in the time travel rant. Same thing. Am I wrong?
Completely out of context.
Am I wrong?
No, has anyone in chat actually watched that video?
Why are you so worried about how many views we're getting?
Oh, I don't care about the views. I just want to discuss you in that video.
Why is this why is this
hilarious? You get so mad about it, and so do I, but I'm not the one who got chopped up and taken out of context.
I'm literally a joke on this episode. Thanks, guys.
I've been a joke for the entire for like an entire year. Get over it.
No, we only make fun of you because of your laugh, and it's infectious, so that's good.
I'm laughing because of your time travel hatred. So
unfortunately, the laugh seems to cut out now, so we can't laugh anymore.
But it's a wonderful part of all our days.
It really is. Even the final days.
Even the final days.
Wonderful part of all of our final days.
You want to know what I thought of the walk?
Yes.
What?
I fucking bawled.
Yeah, I did too.
I've been playing this game for nigh on a decade, and all those quotes brought back too many memories.
So, yes, I didn't bawl, but I cried. I bawled later, though.
Like, I can't not watch that scene now when I'm looking at like other people's playthroughs and not just break down.
I'm probably the only one who was busy trying with that because
wow, you're just a stone wall, aren't you?
No, I just have the emotional range of a teaspoon.
Between that scene and the one that immediately follows it in Absolute Horizon, I needed to take like a multi-hour break just to cool down because it was just so much.
Okay, the following scene actually got me.
Yeah, like on the heels of that, it's just like, oh, you're gonna like punch me in the face after punching me in the gut? Okay.
Oh yeah, Rick and Jack. I could not go or listen to that song for like a month and a half without tearing up.
So I would go into the next scene, but considering we might be short on time, I would go into dead ends.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll probably end up talking our ears off completely about that.
Yeah, so suffice it to say that I cried when Hith and Emmett appeared at the end.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we won't be talking too much about that scene. I'd like to go into dead ends though, because there's a lot there, and especially the end.
Don't worry, Ayumi. We'll probably discuss Hythlodaeus and Hades' appearance at length at any other moment.
I wouldn't be surprised if we had a solid episode 10 finishing out the trial in the dungeon.
What, a part 3?
Oh yeah, I don't mind it at all, and everything, all the good things come in threes.
But I promised a bird.
You did. I'm just checking in with Neela. It looks like Neela's not having any luck fixing voice meter, but voice meter is the problem. That's a good joke. Yeah, Neela says that's just your burden to bear.
I guess to fill in some space while we wait, my only one comment about Absolute Horizon is just that it felt like a good way to cap off their story, those two, as well as to just cleanly bring the Scions back in, because we knew they were coming back anyway.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that Alize was actually surprised they were leaving, but and it hit a lot in the moment, but I've made peace with it. It was a good ending to their story, and they get to rest now. So.
Yeah. So.
Are we discussing the scene? If we are, then it's a.
Fuck you.
Listen.
That scene was art.
Listen, okay, everyone's gonna hate me for this, okay? Controversial opinion, here we go.
Let's go.
I saw Emmett and Hythlodaeus coming back. I mean, we called that years back.
Let's go ahead and say years back, yeah.
Yeah, that we saw them coming back, I just didn't know how. But with the inclusion of the whole plot device thing, oh yeah, let's do that. And while we're at it, while we have the plot device thing, let's bring back all the Scions too. And one last quote from Mommy Heidelin. I'm like, okay, great.
May you always walk
once again
in the light.
So now we get Emmett a monologue of where we need to go next. And I'm like, well, I know, because we on episodes like this, we've been studying Mericidia, so we want to go to Mericidia. We want to go to these places. We heard of all these places. We look at the map. I want to go here. 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 But then I'm like, we have a spaceship. Let's use that too.
They wanted to make it like very obvious and apparent for the people in the back who aren't as lore nerdy as we are.
Listen, Hades was speaking to casuals.
Ouch.
Oof.
So you told us that this game has no content, eh, Hero? Well, here's all the things we're going to add.
I thought that was a good quote. I mean, it was really nice to know where the direction of the game was going because, I mean, having reassurance from this was basically the developer team speaking to us. That's all it was. And it was nice that they made it available to us in a roleplay way where we have the ruins north in the northern wastes. We've got under the ocean. We've got the civilizations on the other
spoke to us
shards.
through Vana in Elpis. Has your journey been good? Has it been worthwhile? That got to me.
And through Xenos.
Absolutely. Wait, and
they talked to us in a few different ways, but those were like the primary ones. I felt like because they were asking us directly questions.
Oh, I
like,
see what you're saying.
Did you find fulfillment, or was it a good journey for you? That kind of
absolutely 110%.
And then there was Ishikawa patting herself in the back through Hythlodeus.
Oh my god! Stop.
I mean, it's true.
It is true.
But yeah, so that's my controversial opinion of that scene. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else. Oh yeah, the whole Scions and their introduction thing coming back, and it's like, okay, yeah. And whenever Emmett and Hythlodeus leave, obviously they had to make their grand exit. It sucks, but maybe we'll see them. What got to me though, they said that Hythlodeus said that perhaps we'll meet again in another life.
That's
and
right.
I thought, like, they mention reincarnation a lot in this game, so that could be true. Emmett could reincarnate in the game of a 12-year-old.
It's a massive open door. That's all it is.
But
I would prefer it if they didn't, honestly. Myself.
Better idea. Reincarnate in Final Fantasy 17, which is all about journeying with our ancient bros.
Oh. Yes.
Anyways,
yes.
Maybe.
And then after that scene, we talk with the Scions, and then Uriandra mentions that, oh yeah, we actually died. My soul was in the Ethereal Sea, and you yanked me back out.
So that means any ethereal mind wipes they would have remembered.
Or they haven't gone through it yet, like Hades and Hythlodeus. I mean, it's something that you may come to a point in which you're ready to sort of reincarnate and you go through the cleansing.
Hermes, you made me look like a fool.
I mean, yes. Yeah.
Remember us. Whoa, wait. No, this was Hermes' fault. Damn it.
Yeah, it's like probably that's what that I just have fun imagining Hades' face going into the Ethereal Sea and like
flips every table down there.
And,
yes.
And now I'm thinking that oh gosh, what's it called? The memory wipe thing. Why am I blanking on it?
The space clock?
Kairos. Yep.
Yeah,
Kairos needs an SCP entry.
Oh god, no.
I like the sounds that Kairos made too. I always think about it in that context of like it just casually counting down to their mind wiping.
It helps that this Fortunal's voice.
Yeah, I was gonna say it uses Fortunal's voice, so.
Oh, this is an.
Oh, that explains everything now.
Yep. Fortunal reincarnated from a time-wiping, memory-wiping space clock.
I remember the voice being hot, but that works too.
Neela, before I throw my tangent down, did you want to talk about what we missed you on?
Oh yeah, I can just go over it really quickly.
Please,
yeah, sorry about that. I was actually one of the things that was most interesting to me about that last area that we show up in. Everything is just out, like people were there, but no people, no souls, no nothing. It was kind of eerie and it was kind of cool.
I agree.
I agree.
That and like the twins, the twins were the only ones that I was like, okay, that's not true. I already talked about how Thancred hits, but once we learned, okay, they're probably going to be back. The twins were the only ones that I got really emotional about because I'm like sitting here, I'm like, I promised your parents I'd bring you back. Y'all better know what y'all doing right now.
Yeah, I don't
want to be going back
without them.
I was pretty sure that.
Yeah, I'm not going back at all without them.
Am I just the emotionless one here? I mean, well, I guess
no,
I am.
I'm with you. Okay. I'm with you. This is not where it hit me.
I think a part of it really does come down to everybody's going to have their favorite characters, their favorite stories, their favorite cultures, all this sort of thing that is going to influence their investment. So it's going to hit people who like Emmett and Hyth more, or people who like the Scions more, or whatever, like in any given situation.
So,
can I just like everyone?
I just want to support.
I mean, you're allowed.
I felt very little in the way of grief throughout these zones. I think I took notes from the story about resolve, and I knew the things that you guys knew and had a sense that things would turn out a certain way, but that's not a guarantee. It's just that despite all that, this task that we've been assigned is more important than any one of our lives. And so I was more concerned with pressing forward than worrying about any of their sacrifices until the end. Like, you bury them when the war is over. You don't. Do you follow me? So that's just kind of the tack how I was dealing with the scenes in this zone personally. I felt it, but I didn't internalize it. I just kind of let it flow over.
Makes me think of 3.4 and Albert saying one life for one world. And well, in this case, there were
a fair
more
trade,
than...
wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. In this case, it was more than... It was like what?
That's right.
7 lives for one universe.
Yeah, it's. Yeah, and part of that with the twins, I'll admit, I think I responded in the same way that you did. I promised to bring you home. And yet, the scene back in Charlian, when we were on our way out, the parents were resolved that, yeah, we're going to send our kids to the edge of the universe because we believe that they can change things. And so you want to bring the kids home, of course, but even the parents must be resigned, even as they keep some faith. I mean, this is this is some real darkness here,
and they are old enough in the Charlian sense of they are adults. They make their own decisions. It's the whole reason they went to Eorzea in the first place, even though their dad didn't want them to.
I mean,
it is in the end their decision. As much as I'm like, no, you better not.
You better come home or you're grounded. Sorry, Dad, I gotta save the universe.
It could have been the same situation as Moonbrida. This time it got the good end, but could have been the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Arden is telling me that I got very faint. I hope you all caught most of that. Sorry.
I heard you fine.
Brainworms. We're a little bit over time today. Are you guys comfortable discussing the dungeon and the trial and the end of the MSQ properly next time?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, because it's a lot to... Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we can really get into Rala.
Yeah, so we'll make it a solid part 10. Praise be to Rala.
Screw Rala.
I wanted to offer everyone some brainworms, if you want them.
Yes,
why not? I don't want worms in my brain. I saw Star Trek 2 at Denver ends well.
Well, I'll give them anyway.
Put your earplugs in.
Yeah, put your earplugs in.
We ate them in Elmarang.
I'm sure we did eat.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
My God. So mushy.
Continue.
I'm sure you all caught this, and maybe the audience did as well, but in the I'm going to call it the Echo flashback as we're leaving Elpis during the Scene of Scenes, did you all notice that the arena is the same arena as the monster, the second boss in
Yeah, the bellwether.
The kind of forum-like structure.
The bellwether. It's the same room. So I wanted to bring this to you just to note that it's the same room, and then think about how this makes the dungeon interpret differently, metaphorically, because that room is where the beasts kept spawning and spawning and spawning and finally burst.
Like a sundering.
Well, in addition to this, if you didn't catch it, the bellwether looks an awful lot like Louis Soir.
It does.
So
it's cursed, but it does.
With triple brainworms, have fun with that, and good luck.
Louis Swaberb.
I hate you.
I wonder if I still have the side-by-side comparison I made.
Oh, gosh.
Silent chattering raven.
Yeah.
Your sound is clipped, and you will speak no more.
Ravens are cool as fuck.
Yes, they are. I like them.
They're also massive and very vicious.
I love
That's
them.
why they're cool.
We don't have ravens
That's
here.
a great way to leave it off.
Corvids, everybody. The Corvids podcast. Well, any closing remarks?
I mean, we do have a tradition of eating crow, so.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any remarks on that scene at the end? At the end before Dead Ends.
That scene before. Oh, well. I don't know. There's a lot of things that I would personally say about that scene, but
this is the time. This is
you
the
mean?
time.
I mean, I assume you mean Hades and Hythlodaeus?
A flower upon your return.
I know some of you fixated on that, but I didn't actually have a. I didn't actually have a reaction really in that scene. Even when Hades and Hythlodaeus showed up, I was like, "Oh, cool!" And then the flowers came, and I just broke down. Because me, Hermes, it's not surprising. And I've been saying the whole walk, I was like, we didn't bring a flower. Even when we got there, I was like, we needed to bring flowers. What
and
the
then
fuck is wrong with
Hades
us? We needed to bring flowers.
Gave us the flowers we needed.
Well, the fact that we like channeled the creation into the thing on our mind, I was like, okay, yes, now this is good.
You were thinking it the whole time, Neela, and they made it real.
The Elpis flowers were all the spectrums of the colors that the Elpis flowers have had turned into throughout Endwalker. And
I didn't get a black one.
I was gonna say I don't think they were that. I think they're like rainbow bright of hope.
Yeah, that too. I mean, aside the rainbows of hope being a theme in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Gates to Infinity, which one day I'll go
Christian
off
mythology.
One day I will go off about Pokemon because people think it's for kids, and it's like
you need to do a video on it. I know what you've showed me. You need to do a video on it.
Poke Hunter J.
So, how about specifically about Hades's his quote? Like these flowers are.
Let's answer Zanetta's
did I miss a question?
Yeah. Zanetta's question: if Emmett Silk is the seat of Hades, what seat did Hythlodaeus have?
Oh,
he doesn't have a seat.
It's the other way around. The seat was Emmett Silk.
Yeah.
So yes, but Hythlodaeus was actually the first choice for the seat of Emmett Silk before Hades.
But he's too chaotic.
He could have been. He could have been Emmett Silk, but he said no. I don't think I'm a good choice for the position.
I've seen some
good
art on that.
He did hold a very important position, though. He was the head, the chief of the Bureau of the Architect,
responsible for all legal creation magic on the star.
Yep, it actually makes a lot of sense why he knew Hermes and was, friendly with the guy, because they would cooperate closely.
Or having the power of decide which monsters are allowed and which monsters are not.
Yeah, whatever was approved by Hermes would go through Hythlodaeus, and with them working together pretty well, I mean, it just kind of worked out in tandem.
Yeah, which means that the TLDR for Endwalker is Hythlodaeus makes a bad job recommendation. Thanks, my way.
That's correct, Zombie. He was not part of the convocation.
It's also
if ancients have like roles that like become names, I think only the convocations is really that relevant in that sense. And Hythlodaeus was just Hythlodaeus, chief architect.
Which, by the way, is not a slouching job.
Yeah, not at all.
He comes off so aloof and like almost non-caring, but in a positive and happy way, that it's really interesting that job must have been incredibly taxing.
Well, I'm sure they had I'm sure they had people that they hired in such positions that they worked really hard with, and whatever concepts were presented to Hythlodaeus were definitely
sharks.
They were sharks. They were all sharks.
Definitely sharks, but also like worked at and well thought of, so that he didn't have to go as thorough into checking them out so closely.
Or just throw them to the trash can because they were sharks.
People didn't have to go up in front of him at the desk and be like, okay, so let me show you this. For my idea for a catboy, you're not going to believe this.
Oh, God.
A tail.
So, I would have taken half of the ideas and just thrown them in the trash because I don't want ideas that are unlucky.
It's a good one.
So, yeah.
Just responding to chat.
Yes, and
quite possibly. I mean, I'm sure some creations didn't even need to necessarily pass by his desk as the chief. He might have done a lot more overseeing stuff, but I'm sure, like the more difficult to decide ones, I'm sure he weighed in on and such. And he just had a standing thing for "Don't tell me if it's a shark."
I mean, he had a knowledge of going around Elpis too. Like he served as his guide because he walked around the place and knew Hermes.
That was why he was there.
Makes me wonder if being chief of the architects, and of course having to have a hand in all of kind of creations, approval or not, if he knows about Pandemonium.
Probably.
Which is another.
Although that might be, since those are sort of like not something they're going to release into the ecosystems of Aetheris, they'd probably be like, yeah, he doesn't have jurisdiction over them. They're just sort of in the purview of the convocation and the keywords.
It makes me wonder if we do get a reincarnation of both of them. What if their roles are reversed, whereas Emmett gets reincarnated, instead of being sassy, he gets like Hythlodaeus and being like super active and super happy. And then Hythlodaeus, instead of being super happy, gets super sassy.
If we reverse that,
So one thing I really want to see, and the way the mechanics of the game aren't really trending in this direction, but since we know that time flows differently on different shards, I would have loved to have seen either Emmett Selk born on another shard, and then that shard, like they found an empire on that shard, but then get to the point where they can actually cross the rift to other shards and start invading other shards, and then we have to stop it.
Doesn't that mean they'd have to be sundered, though?
No. It just means they would need to be in that shard's live stream, which right now they're all on the source's live stream, so that can't happen.
Looks like Neela broke again.
It does.
Just stop.
If
he told that on the first, and I'm like,
Convenient excuse.
100 years I can accept. When you tell me that there's a near equivalency of time versus time on the source, no, you lost me there.
So,
hey, but that would be interesting. That with the whole thing about, hey, we were about to leave to leave the planet in the moon and left the shards to rot because the shards doesn't matter to anyone, and that could be conflict.
Let's go to the second where it's like 1,000 years into the future.
So Rick and Jack asked, why does that not make sense? I presume he's talking about the time flows differently issue.
Time flows differently issue, yeah. So this was something that I had issue with because we were told that a century had passed on the first since Grahatia had been brought to, or had brought the Crystal Tower to the first.
Excuse you, Anthony Bridgerton.
Okay.
The Catman.
It's not exactly an alternate dimension universe. No. It's more of like when Heidelin sundered the source, she split it into 14 shards. They are on the same plane, but just how would you call it?
So they're on the same physical space, but they're on a different phase. This goes back into the wavelength video we made a while back, where basically all of the shards are on a slightly different signal. We're talking like radio, actual wavelengths, and so this ties in with the light argument and also with the time argument, because the first is arguably the youngest world, and the 13th is the oldest, with Unachahai being like 20,000 years old. So there's some weird wavelength stuff going on, and that kind of conflicts with the nearing a period of equivalence concept. And it's their story, but it's like narrative, like Neela says, the flow of time between the shards is controlled by a strange device called narrative convenience.
Time convergence.
It makes the story confusing later on down the road, especially. That's one of the things I had with that I ranted about with me hating time.
Mm-hmm.
time in stories because you can make these convenient excuses now, but later on down the road, if you try and make the same excuses or try and fix it and say that, oh no, that wasn't the case, you just ruined the narrative.
The core
sounds
issue,
contrived.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to so Neela supported the argument with some evidence from one of the encyclopedias, but there's this issue with the way we use the word dimension in English, and sometimes people it's one of these words we can kind of use however we want. You can think an alternate dimension, and it's just something we can never access. You can say an alternate dimension, and it's something some 12-year-old mage can tear a hole in the rift and just pop over there.
Tainor.
In our case, we're not on the same plane, right? It is a different dimension. That's the correct word, but it's still part of a unit. So the source and the shards are still, there's a togetherness that belongs to them. They're separate but linked, like inextricably linked.
And it's stated to be an anti-natural and not so good state by the devs themselves.
And it might be something that nature itself tries to fix.
The world is broken. Yeah, we hope they have a gentle rejoining over millennia.
Yeah. Yes. Where is it mentioned that they are on the same wavelength?
This is a theory.
Yeah. So drop the shards video.
Yeah, let me just throw it at you. Just reminding everyone, this is a lore and theory podcast, and we are not promising that we are correct. We are just paying very close attention and doing our best. And they can change the story at any time.
But for some theories or some points of view, we kind of start through a sort of consensuated.
Even if it did exist,
I don't know.
I
think I made up a word.
Even if they did exist on the same plane or a different plane of existence, a different dimension, the fact that he mentioned, with this 100 years has passed, but you made a period of near equivalency between the source and the shard, it kind of defeats the whole, 100 years have passed, but now we're back to normal. So what time has passed then? It just makes it unbelievable.
It's a question of if they're separated and we have a sense of the amount of time that has passed, and the elements of light and dark seem linked to age and youth. At what point can the timelines simply converge? We don't have that answer. They've given us that answer, but
yeah, recent live letter kind of
interpret it as you will. And I do appreciate the freedom, but sometimes we want a canonical response.
If we don't have enough canon to work with, we can't interpret it as we will, if that makes sense. There needs to be a foundation.
So we're all hoping for an EE3, yeah?
I mean, they were working on that.
I'm so excited to buy it. I will throw the money at the screen.
I think this goes back to what we were talking about the other time with, like, Shadowbringers. Like, we want things in Endwalker to kind of tie in with the other expansions. After all, this is an arcing, a closure to an arc. But what happens if you take what's factual in Endwalker and then look back at the other expansions, Shadowbringers, Stormblood, and you see that it doesn't line up with what you were told in Endwalker? Who do you believe? Do you believe Emmett Selk when he told you that, Zodiark was in the right in this? Or now do you believe Heidelin in Endwalker because she told you that you were in the right? It's conflicting stories. You have to believe which one, so on and so forth to interpret. There are also things that you saw in Shadowbringers that if you compare to in Endwalker, it's strange.
That's one way to put it.
Yep. So
it's all false smoke and mirrors.
It may seem like a rant, but I don't know. Try going back and doing New Game Plus on Shadowbringers, and when it comes out, Endwalker on New Game Plus, and just kind of compare and contrast scenes. like that you will be told one thing in previous expansions. When you go into Endwalker, you're told something completely separate, and what you knew as canon in the previous expansions is now different somehow.
It's been subverted.
Like tempering.
Sure, tempering's a good example. I mean, I remember
and
in our
Title's personality and behavior.
Yes.
But then we look at other localizations and they say something totally different, which makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, English has a habit of using, and I love it. I think we have the best localization, but it's not the most accurate, and so
I agree.
The poetry and the poetic language they use often obfuscates things. Like, you know, I mean, we've got the humor of teeny tiny toy boat, but then we have the tempering issue with you might feel a tickle. We've discussed that a million times now.
God, I
but
hate that.
in
line
the other
so
languages,
much.
it's made very clear.
That's been clarified.
It has been.
It's just English misspoke.
This is the example of that. So
yeah, but yeah, it messes up the interpretation, or it makes it less clear.
I hate it. That's me quoting you, Yumi.
Hate it, but don't hate us. I guess we should close up shop.
I hate it.
There you go.
Hate the game, not the players. Don't actually hate the game. It is fantastic. We just criticize it because we care a lot.
Love the game, love the players sometimes, love the devs most of the time.
Most of the time.
And yeah, if you want to chat lore with us, we have our Discord. It's in the chat. So don't be hesitant to join. We love lore. We love talking about lore. Set up any kind of argument you want. Just remember. Go ahead.
No, it is an open forum, and if you disagree with any of our ideas or theories or interpretations of the lore, direct it at Ayumi.
Why me?
Especially if they pertain to time travel.
Yes.
Okay, time travel I will go nuts about.
There we go. All right, everyone.
And
thanks.
I mean, yeah.
It's okay, Sarah. Go ahead.
I was just thinking, you said open forum, and I'm like, that building where the bellwether is looks kind of like a forum with an open air roof.
Ooh, yep, it sure does.
Because there's a hole in the roof. Because everything's fucked.
Yep.
Everybody knows shit's fucked.
The beasts are among us.
Anyways, we will see you guys next week for part 3 of the Ultima Thule.
And hopefully the end. But it will be also the beginning of Pandemonium.
Yep.
I'm so excited
I'm
for that.
very
excited. I have no idea. I have
Davis
so
and Eric's
much to
Wild
say.
Adventure.
Oh my god.
I have so much to say on Pandemonium.
Well,
Pandemonium is going to be Neela's episode.
Yeah. Just like mine was time travel.
To talk to.
Time travel and Palace of the Dead, I think, were mine.
All right, everybody, we're closing up. We'll see you next week. Talk to you soon.
Thanks so much for coming out, everyone.